Well, a very good afternoon to you and welcome to Ballinamore in a rather damp Leitrim today, Thursday afternoon. I'm delighted to say we have a really packed show for you today. We have a great range of characters and people with wonderful tales to tell. So I'll introduce you to them all very quickly. From Veve Bakery, we have Victor Podgroski, and apologies if I've massacred your name, Victor.
It'll be fine.
We have the success mentor Barry Lynch, we
Hi,
have
everybody.
Dave Young, and we have Kevin Branigan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give each of you a couple of minutes to tell us a little bit about what you do. So what we'll do, Victor, is we'll start with yourself. If you want to just tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what it is you do and what you have to offer people.
Yeah, perfect. So hi, my name is Victor, and I am the founder of Veve Bakery. Veve standing for vegan and vegetarian. The business started during the pandemic, after I was furloughed, unfortunately. However, that presented a great opportunity for us to develop something new on the side. So we are proud to present our very first product, Nutcakes. It is a vegan alternative to your all-time favorite cheesecakes, and that's how the name comes from. It's made of nuts, so that's why it's a nut cake rather than a cheesecake. We're currently doing deliveries in city centre in Dublin, as well as pickups from Smithfield, and we're only operating at the minute part-time at the weekends, so Saturdays and Sundays. However, what we're working in the background is the development of a store-ready version of our nut cake, which we're hoping to have on the shelves in Dublin probably mid to late 2022, and hoping to take over Ireland in 2023. So yeah, that's pretty much myself.
Certainly sounds like an exciting journey. And next then we'll have a little word with Dave Young.
Hello, my name is Dave Young. No matter what they say, I'm a comedian. There you go. And I do everything. I do weddings, I do concerts, I do theaters, bar mitzvahs, funerals. I'm a great crack at it. And I have a thing going now on Sunday night called Valentino's Big Bingo Show. And it's a character I've created called Valentino. He's half Irish, half Mexican, half Cuban, and half Spanish. And it's very funny, and there's 3 games in there, and you can win big cash prizes. That's all on Zoom for Monday nights. There you go.
Great, thanks a lot, Dave. You might try and have a look at your sound there, Dave. You're a little bit crackly on us.
Mm-hmm.
Also joining us, we have Barry Lynch.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Barry Lynch, a success mentor. Company name is Paradigm Coaching. I help owners and entrepreneurs multiply their effectiveness and develop their own health, wealth, and abundance. I've been in business now for 31 years, and I always say because I didn't know how to create my own success. But I suppose in that time, I created a 7-figure business. At that time, I was constantly stressed and happy, together with a bad self-image. I didn't actually like the person that I look back at me. But now I've changed my paradigms, my beliefs, my behaviors, and of course, I've created a better version of me. I'm doing a webinar next Wednesday evening at 6 p.m. and everybody is welcome to join.
That's great, Barry. We'll actually, after the show, we will put up the details about the webinar on the page for you. And I'm also extremely delighted that we managed to drag him away from his desk for the hour to talk to us, that we've been joined by Kevin Branigan.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Rory, and thanks for the invite, and hi to everybody else. I suppose, just to give a brief bit of information, I'm the chief executive of 2 radio stations, Ireland's Classic Hits and also Radio Nova. I was one of the founding members of both of the radio stations when they came in the air at the end of the last decade. We broadcast to more than 500,000 listeners across Ireland. With Ireland's Classic Hits, we broadcast to Dublin, Cork, Limerick, Galway, and with Radio Nova, we broadcast to Dublin City, County and Commuter Belt. So between the 2 services, we reached nearly 500,000 listeners. We're also involved with Sunshine 106.8. And I suppose really I've been involved with radio pretty much all my life. It's a lifelong passion. Before we became involved with Radio Nova and Ireland's Classic Hits, I worked with FM104 and with East Coast Radio for many years. Also was a producer of radio programs, and I've been involved in the radio business, marketing and advertising, both digital, radio, and audio for the last 25 years.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were absolutely delighted when you were available to join us, Kevin. So, one of the things I want to talk about today, and the fact that we have you here, you're the right man to tell us. We all know about the power of advertising, and if it's done well, it can be very, very good. To your mind, what is the power of radio advertising?
To me, the power of radio advertising is that it reaches so many people and it's such good value. So I suppose if you look at all the different types of media, if you look at print, you have to prepare print and graphic design adverts. It can't be changed. Once published is published. With television, the cost is high. With social and digital, you can get into it, but it's expensive to reach a mass targeted audience. To me, with radio, you're reaching the vast majority of the population. As of the most recent radio research, more than 80% of the Irish population listen to at least 4 hours of radio each single day. So that's an enormous audience, and it's the largest media by far with the highest audience penetration. In terms of cost, there's great value to be had. We can produce radio commercials very quickly. We're creative. The business we're in is in creating radio. We have presenters, we have talent, we have comedians, all these types of different cross sections of people who feed into radio, and we can channel all of that into really good commercial radio messaging. And that to me is the ultimate power of radio. It's the value for money, it's the mass audience it reaches, and it's the ease with which we can turn it around.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there is a huge amount to say for it, and I mean, going way back when to the days of pirate radio, even then, the value that could actually come from advertising, if you were advertising with the right ones, it was just a case of pinpointing who were the right ones. I mean, on that, I think one of the biggest shocks is you look at, again, when we talk about the power of advertising, look what happened with Ronaldo and a bottle of Coke on a table at an interview. Purely his dismissing the Coke and asking for a bottle of water instead wiped, what, 4 billion off the value of Coca-Cola. So if you can get that sort of message out to people on radio, certainly it's well worth looking at. Dave, we'll come back over to you now. Being in the entertainment industry, lockdown has been tricky. Right? You're someone that has pivoted in several different ways to try and find ways to make it work, with things like Valentino, with things like your masked magician shows, or was it the unmasked magician shows?
No, the masked magician.
The masked magician shows. Yeah. Now I know it wasn't you that was actually hiding behind the mask, but you were behind the production of the show and that type of thing. So
behind the mask. You shouldn't say that. Gas. I would be doing the show live, and I have this mask with the rubber and all the gear on it. I even got Kevin, you'd love this. I got a machine that changes your voice. It drops it down. So it gave you that, in the movie when somebody's kidnapped, the ransom guides say, if you don't pay the money, well, it did this for me, so it took me having to do it. And when I did it with friends and family, when I did it with my mum, I'm in a mask, I'm in a robe, and the voice has changed. I sent mum a video and I said, what did you think of that? And she said, oh, it was really serious and really spooky. That was really strange. And I said, yeah, that was me. She said, well, it didn't look like you. I'm wearing a mask and a robe on my voice, typical Irish mother. But when I was doing the show, everyone was saying, I'd say, no, I want you to pick a card. And they'd say, okay, Dave. And I'd be saying, stop calling me Dave. But anyway, it did work, and it does work great with corporates. I found that, I kind of think that this virtual stuff is here to stay. It's a bit like how security changed after 9/11 in airports. I have a house in Spain, and if you were in my house here, it's full of swords and shields and crossbows and hatchets, all that medieval rubbish. And I used to buy that before 9/11 in a shop in Spain, wrap it in bubble wrap, and get onto my Ryanair flight. I used to have air hostesses packing it into the overhead with me. Make room for this with this hatchet, my swords, my lances, no problem. And then 9/11 came, and it changed everything. I couldn't get on the plane with the tweezers. So I feel that the virus has changed how we communicate. And a lot of people were saying, oh, when will live gigs come back again, blah, blah, blah. And I've already started doing live gigs again. I did a wedding at the front of Waterford Castle, and it was great. It was weird. It was 6 people. There's a part where I take 4 out of the audience and make them a boy band. That left 2 of the audience, and I had to send the 4 back to clap before the routine was over. But anyway, I think that this virtual stuff is here to stay. So I, in a way, the kind of positive that's coming out of COVID for me is that when all the live gigs come back, I'll be out there gigging live. But now I have all these corporate gigs in my own little studio, which I never had before. So there's 2 ways of making a few bob now. So I try to turn, as you say, Barry, a negative into a positive, which is embrace the change and, get used to the idea of Zoom and trying to be funny to a camera and that sort of stuff. And it's working out great. So there you go.
Absolutely agree with you. That again, it is about the pivot, and it's about finding ways to make it work.
Yeah.
And again, this is for all the panel. All the talk that we're hearing in relation to the National Maternity Hospital. Is this something they should have seen was coming down the line? Is this something that has really just managed to catch them off guard and realistically could have caught anyone off guard? What's anyone's thoughts on that? And the silence is deafening.
Rory, your mic is a little low. Come up on volume a little.
Right. Let me try and get this right. Apologies to anyone listening if they're finding that. Now, is that any better?
That's better, yeah.
Yes, it is a little bit better, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I was just asking the panel there in relation to the National Maternity Hospital and the chaos that's now pursuing in relation to the land and that type of thing. What's anyone's views on that?
Well, I suppose I'll jump in on that, and it probably isn't going to be a very popular opinion. I think it's all a lot of hype in the media. I think it probably was clear that that land wasn't ever going to be transferred. It was going to be transferred into a trust. And I think all of this stuff, like Alan Kelly standing up saying the land should be CPO'd, it's nonsense. It is complete nonsense. And I think that what we're seeing is a couple of things, that all of these conversations about that piece of land have been going on for the last 10 to 15 years. So, there's multiple different governments, there's multiple ministers, there's been so many people have been involved in that transaction, and it hasn't ever at any stage been suggested that the religious order were going to transfer the land over to the state. And I believe there was always the suggestion it was going to be transferred into a trust. And all of this hype has built up now, and it's a classic example of political grandstanding. People huffing and puffing in the Dáil. Like, it just isn't possible for the state to CPO buildings that they want to use. So, to me, it represents what's probably a very difficult project. It's a political football, and I think all that we're seeing with this latest hoo-ha in the Dáil and the media is just, it's the latest episode in what's going to be probably one of the longest political footballs which ever existed.
Well, I mean, Kevin,
in the history of the state.
You've been a long time around the media, and where I'm left wondering with this is, what are they actually using this as a political football to hide? What has happened that we haven't yet been told about and is going to come down the road?
Well, I don't know if they're hiding anything, but I suppose what I think is that probably the media, and I'm saying that in a very broad sense, and I think the politicians on the opposition front benches are trying to score points against the government. And all of these things about planning and maternity hospitals are all discussed by committees of the Dáil, by Dáil committees. So all of the facts in relation to this have probably been discussed by Dáil committees, which include opposition deputies for many years. So I suppose I will be pretty cynical about seeing the likes of Alan Kelly jumping up and Mary McDonald jumping up, they're filled with outrage about something which they probably were all aware about for years anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree with you. I think there's still a lot more to be found out, because from my understanding and from I'm trying to read between the lines on and how I see it, is they're saying that while it's owned by the church, X, Y, and Z can't happen. That the church are going to be a party to this new charity, but are not going to be controlling this new charity. The state are then taking the land from the charity. That's not the hospital. That's not the charity running the hospital. So therefore, I don't see where there is these issues. But maybe there's something in the contracts that we haven't seen that is going to cause the problem down the road.
Perhaps the biggest problem, I'd say, is that I think the Department of Health and with the government and with I suppose all of these organizations are so big, they involve so many people. Like if this was the private sector and it was only like 5 or 6 people, it would be done much quicker. But because it involves multiple governments, it involves multiple departments, multiple ministers, things get dragged out forever. And I think that's actually probably the biggest tragedy here, that what probably should have been decided and actioned upon 8 to 10 years ago is still being spoken about and discussed, and it isn't anywhere near completion. It's not the kind of thing that we should be proud of, that for us as a country to build large hospitals, which in 25 or 30 years time, all of this will be forgotten about because we have a wonderful hospital, but yet it takes 8 to 10 years to get anywhere because of the political processes and because there's so many people involved in making these decisions. So that's probably the real tragedy. And probably if things weren't so complicated, there would have been some clarity on this particular issue many years ago, and it could have been dealt with at the time, as opposed to becoming something that becomes a huge political football 8 to 10 years later.
I agree with you, Captain, completely. I think it reminds me of when we used to work in the community. We used to do all the warm-ups for the Late Late Show. And the way the government does it's like an old demarcation. There are so many people, like take an idea, and then they have to clear the idea, and then there's all these opinions on the idea. Like to give you an example with OT, when I started doing warm-ups, I had to bring my own centre. They wouldn't let me go to the desk in the studio because they were worried about livestock. So we would have to arrive with 2 people in the desk. And the first time we got there, we went to plug in a plug ball. And the guys running everywhere, no, you can't do that. We need the electrician to plug in the plug board. And they brought in an electrician, and he plugged in the plug board and went, yes, that's in. And then we plugged everything. And then when the show was over, we went to unplug it. Oh, no, get the electrician again. So it's all this, it's kind of like they spend so much time covering every decision and every action they make. This is what complicates the whole thing. If you're buying a house as well, it's a chain of events. You have your solicitor, you have the person's solicitor that's selling it, you've got the bank, you've got all these things. And if one person doesn't do their little bit, it drags on and on and on. But I definitely think the government overcomplicate. And the important thing with the Irish government is there's a world stage now watching us. And some of the decisions they make happen the way, I'm sure the countries like Victor, I'm sure you kind of go, well, that's typical Irish. I think you said something there at the beginning that's real Irish. We've loads of Irish stuff, like there in the COVID era. You remember for a while you could play the ball, but you couldn't look at it. So in other words, you could go out and actually play on a pitch and run around and fall over each other and dive on each other. But if you were a dad, you couldn't stand on the sideline watching your son or daughter do this. Loads of these kind of, just Irishisms that just didn't make any sense. And I think what has happened with a lot of Irish people is they get to a point where it's not making any sense, so they just kind of shut down. It's like with a husband and a wife, when a wife keeps going, and then you kind of go, yeah, whatever. It's easier just to go, yeah, whatever. Does everybody talk, or this is like talking to oneself in the library? The atmosphere here is desperate. Are you all okay? How are you, Victor? Great, you're laughing. Are your mics muted when we talk? Is that why there's no interaction?
No, I just muted mine because I had some background noise, and I wish I had a bit of a more opinion on the hospital matter. Unfortunately, I'm not following politics too much. But just to go back on your comments, on Irishisms, I do believe that you have so much to be proud of, and I'm actually proud to be called Irish now since 2017 officially. As much as there's a lot of things to ask for, I think that the nation is quite strong, and we can definitely differentiate right from wrong, and the process might take a little bit longer, but it's just about as you say, maybe not dropping everything, but just retracting from it and trying to make better decisions and putting better people in charge. But I think if anything, Ireland is proving to be a very strong nation from my point of view.
Well, again, where you say about putting better people in charge, for the large part, we need to remember that it's the civil servants do the bulk of the decision making. The minister in charge is there more or less as a figurehead. So even when you're changing ministers, for the large part, your civil service staff are still the same. I think that's what needs to change, is the whole system needs an overhaul rather than just changing who the people in charge are.
Yeah, listen, I'm not a specialist in politics. I never studied politics, never worked in politics. But what I do mention, I do have quite a lot of experience in corporate world, and what I find weird sometimes is that you have this new government coming into play every 4 or 5 years, and you expect wonders to happen. If you had the same situation in any corporation, nothing would have been done. You can't expect to overhaul the whole system every 4 years and think that there's going to be better decisions made. I think it's a slow progress. We have to take into account of the mistakes that have been done in the past and grow from them, rather than trying to do everything against the previous political party. And that's an unfortunate situation in every country. And but that's just my personal opinion. I'm not a politician, never worked in it, but it does sound, it seems weird that we expect wonders to happen every 4 or 5 years.
Victor, we actually have a comment in from you there from Edgar Kirby that he thinks a great initiative through difficult times for what you're doing with the nutcakes. So,
thank you.
It's good to see a bit of that. So, on to something a little bit lighter. As you know, we like to ask every guest about their Lite Bite lunch and their favourite Lite Bite lunch. So, I'm going to run through the panel very quickly, and we'll see what everyone's favourite Lite Bite lunch is. So, Barry, you've been very quiet for a while, so we'll start with yourself.
Yeah, okay. My favourite lunch, especially since I've been spending a little bit of time at home, so I've been getting to have my lunch at home. My wife has been doing like a brown bread with a fried egg, and oh my God, it's so delicious.
Good, simple, straightforward.
I have to say, it's thoroughly enjoyable. It's something that I enjoy.
Absolutely. What about yourself, Dave?
I'm not a big morning eater or lunch eater. I'm a night feeder. If you saw the belly, you'd know I'm a night feeder. I don't know. My girlfriend is Polish, and she makes me eat some lovely Polish dishes that I gołąbki, and they're dumpling mad. They dumplings. I don't know where the dumpling came from, but she's. So I suppose I'll have to say she's probably one of the dumplings are my favorite. Definitely.
You're probably referring to pierogies, is it?
Pierogi, that's right.
Pierogies.
Pierogi. She gives me that. Have you ever had gołąbki? It looks like a broccoli and cabbage, and it's got a filling.
Yeah.
White cabbage. I think it's like
white cabbage with a meat filling. Do you know what gołąbki means in English?
I have no idea.
It's pigeons.
Good God.
Pigeons, yes. There's no pigeon meat in it, though.
I remember when I met Martha. We were going together for a few months. Together about 15 years. With 2 kids, a 4-year-old and a 9-month-old. I tell everybody I invaded Valentines once from the rear. And we said it. Anyway, when we met Martha first, I spent a full week learning to speak some Polish because her mother was flying in from Poland to meet me. So I asked Martha to teach me how to say, welcome to Ireland, I love your daughter, it's great to meet you. And Martha spent teaching me how to say this. Her mum arrived, and I say everything Martha has taught me. Of course, Martha is a bigger joker than me, and probably wasn't what I thought she was saying. So the woman walked in. Anyway, after everything I said, the woman thought it was correct. Because I think I basically called her every name under the sun, all the naughty words, thinking I'm saying hello, how are you, and I love you, and all that sort of stuff. So the Polish has a great sense of humor. Is somebody something? You all hear?
Yeah, there's like a little noise in the background from somewhere.
There is a little bit,
Yeah, a bit of interference.
for some reason. I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah.
So, Victor, what about yourself then? Seeing as we've been on the Polish dishes, what would you recommend as a
Yeah, not a big fan of Polish food, I'm not gonna lie. But not either lunch food either. I do love my brunch though. So my favorite brunch would be 2 fried eggs and mushroom and ham croissant. So
I thought Germans like a lot of liver.
liver, I don't know. It's popular in Poland as well.
For
But I'm not for breakfast, is it? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, slightly fried.
Certain, I think, in certain parts of Germany, it's very, it's very Germanic. So organ of an animal for breakfast, it's very strong. Except with an egg.
What about yourself, Kevin? What would you go for your lunch?
Well, I've been doing a fair bit of working from home over the last 15 months. Like we took the decision to basically protect all of the presenters. So when the pandemic hit, we wanted all of the presenters to be safe and to make sure that nobody brought the virus into the building. So pretty much all of us on the admin front, the marketing front, and the sales front have been predominantly working from home since the last 15 months. So I guess I have a particular routine. I don't really eat breakfast much. I kind of find when I wake up that for the first 2 or 3 hours I'm just not hungry. So I will get up at about 6:45. I generally have my first bite to eat of the day at 11 o'clock. I try to have a bit of fruit and a bit of muesli and a bit of granola, bananas and stuff. And then I generally just make a sambo. I'm big into cooking, but I generally do that in the evening. When it comes to lunch, it's pretty straightforward. I just grab a couple of pieces of bread and I'd have a bit of ham or cheese, or it's from the point of view of what I have for lunch, it's a bit plain, a little bit boring. So I haven't any big stories to tell on that front.
The whole idea behind lunch is something that you can grab and go quickly, and that isn't going to pile on the pounds too much, you hope. Right, we're going to take a very quick ad break, and we'll be back straight after this.
I know a place where you can go to play a game you love and know. You'll have some wine, and the show is called Valentino's Bingo Mondays.
And for those of you that weren't sure, that's an ad we promised to run for Dave. In relation.
Jesus, lovely.
Great. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about the show? Can anybody join, or do you need to be a subscriber? Or
You can join. The tickets are at u1productions.com, and it's 3 games. And out of the tickets are €12, and every €2 goes to the homeless charity. So it's great involved and having fun. There you go.
very nice.
Yeah. You're based, Victor, now in Ireland. You live in Ireland, yeah?
Yes, yeah, in Smithfield.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. Very central. Yeah.
Barry. And you, Kevin?
I am in Leopardstown in Dublin.
I'm in Capel Street at the moment, but I live in Raheny.
Where, Barry?
I live in Raheny, but I'm in Capel Street, the opposite at the moment, yeah.
Oh, great. Well, that's great.
What about you, Dave? Where are you?
Wicklow. I'm based in Wicklow, just outside Blessing, in a place called Ballynock, up by the lakes.
Very nice.
Garden of Ireland.
That's it.
Very nice. Yeah.
Here in the gardens.
All a safe distance away from me up in Leitrim. So, Victor, we talked there about the fact that having come from Poland and opening a business here, what sort of difficulties did you find you had to overcome when you tried opening a business in Ireland?
We discussed it briefly before, and from my point of view, I think that I'm actually quite lucky because I believe that the system here is actually much more straightforward than it is in Poland. And you know, I came here to do my college, and then decided to stay. So pretty much, you know, all my professional years have been in Ireland. So I just went through that journey pretty much as an Irish resident to decide to open a business. But I think it's, you know, the intricacies of opening any business for anybody. It's, you know, getting to know how, you know, what are the logistics and, you know, what are the requirements from a legal point of view. It is a food business, so a lot of research went into making sure that we have the right certificates and you know, registrations. So it was a massive learning curve and, you know, a brilliant experience. It took me about 6 months to get it fully up and running. And, you know, I'm quite excited to have it all fully certified and registered. Yeah, you know, for some people, maybe language barrier would be an issue. Again, you know, I've been an English-speaking person for quite a while. So I didn't have that much of an, you know, and I don't have a comparison of opening a business to another country. But I will have to say that it's been okay. It's been an okay service, experience. Like I didn't have to use the services of an accountant so far, or any other of, you know, professionals to help me set up a business. So I've managed to do my research myself and set everything up from the ground. And so far so good. So experience has been nice.
And anyone else, any thoughts on going out there and actually setting up a business for yourself and the pitfalls that occur or the joy that comes out of doing it?
Well, if I was to add some comments, I mean, I decided to start working for myself when I was 27, 28, but that's pretty much what I always wanted to do, you know, and really it can be, I suppose it can be something that works out very well, or it mightn't not work out very well. I suppose if there was any one thing I'd say, which is the opposite of what I did, is that people shouldn't be afraid to ask for advice. People shouldn't be afraid to ask for help and counselling. And basically, I pretty much thought I knew it all when I set out. And I kind of, you know, look, I suppose over the years, I've picked it up and I've worked very hard. I worked very, very hard. But I probably could have, you know, at different points, different things that I was doing, I probably could have made it quicker if I had have asked for people's advice. And that's what I would say. That, but you have also, even with all the advice you get, you kind of do have to come a time where you have to make the decision for yourself as well, what you think is the right thing to do. But if you don't have the benefit of people who have more experience with you to help you, it will increase your chances of failure, or it may also, you know, it might greatly lengthen the amount of time it might take to get where you want to go if you don't have the benefit of people's advice. That's all I'd say about it, really.
Yeah, that's right.
I can actually.
Sorry,
Rector, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to add to it. I completely agree with Kevin. Even though I've built everything from ground myself, I wouldn't be able to do that without the support of a lot of, you know, focus groups and webinars and training sessions that I've done with people that, you know, came with the knowledge and experience and shared it with me. And I would say Leo is a fantastic service, local enterprise office. I think it's in every county in Ireland. It has sponsorship from the EU, so we even managed to get funding for the business as well for innovation and creativity because it's in the vegan sphere. So there's a lot of things, a lot of information and knowledge that you can gain from just reaching out to the right people in the right industry, and the tools are definitely there, and LinkedIn is brilliant as well, so I agree with that.
Yeah, I totally agree with Kevin. It's almost like, you know, when I look at for 27 years I had a successful business, but I thought lots of other businesses which tend to fail in the background. But when I now look back and see what the problems were with me, it's down to my beliefs and my behaviours. And it's almost like what we were talking about earlier when we talked about, you know, what food we eat and the times we get up at, because everybody operates on habitual behaviours. And if you continue to operate on habitual behaviour, you're not aware of what's happening during a day. But when you look at, say, somebody's results in life, and they want to improve the results. So they want to get better results, both personally and professionally. But sometimes you can find that because of their behaviors and their beliefs, they're caught in the middle. So they believe that they can do something, but their behavior is not congruent with the belief. So they don't get the results that they thought they were going to get in the first place. And then a month will go by, 6 months, a year, 2 or 3 years, and they find that nothing changes. When it comes to setting up a business, they're changing their habitual behavior. But because of their beliefs, they can sometimes get caught up in it. And I suppose there's two things we look at, when we set up a business. One is time, and the other is money. And because, nobody ever seems to have time, and they try to manage time as opposed to activity, and then they get caught up with it. And then because of their awareness, or non-awareness of their behaviors, they tend to not be able to introduce themselves to the appropriate behavior to make a success of something. And of course, the same thing applies to money. When we find that we get caught up with money, we tend to focus on it. So we focus on the problem as opposed to the solution. So mindset is 95% and strategy is 5%. But what 95% of the population do is they focus on the strategy being 95% and the mindset being 5%. So they get caught up in it, and therefore they can't solve the problem. But when you realize that, the solution is there, and again, like what we said about, getting advice. Like Kevin, when I started my business, I thought I knew it all. I thought, I didn't need help from anybody. I wanted to be the lone ranger. But in fact, it was only when I started to ask for help and realized all the help that's out there, like Leo and stuff like that, it's amazing the way you can turn, your mindset or your habitual behaviors as such around.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're hearing a lot of talk now about the introduction of a 4-day work week. Now, I have actually had a statement from the Department of the Environment on this. The Department of the Environment, Climate and Communications and the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment Ireland are seeking proposals from the research community on the social, economic and environmental implications of reduced working time. Similar research has been carried out in other jurisdictions to give consideration to how, for example, a move to a 4-day week would impact on greenhouse gas emissions, environmental pollution and resource energy consumption, macroeconomic impacts, employment levels, competitiveness of business and staff productivity, gender inequality, staff well-being and job satisfaction. The new research call will provide an opportunity to address these impacts in the context of the Irish economy specifically. Up to €150,000 will be made available to support the research. The two departments will formally open the call on the 1st of July, at which time full evaluation criteria, terms and conditions will be provided. It is anticipated the call will remain open to proposals until 15th of July 2021. So that was more or less giving us a statement that didn't actually tell us a whole lot more than was already in the media about it when we approached them about this. But what are your thoughts? Do you think, as self-employed people, do you think a 4-day week would work?
It'll be interesting to see. Again, when we talk about, say, mindset, people don't like change. You get up at the same time, you go to bed at the same time, you probably go in and watch TV and sit in the same chair. And if somebody comes in and sits in your chair, you're uncomfortable and you ask them to move because it's your chair. And the same happens in our work environment. You get the bus to work at the same time, you can walk to work at the same time, you go shopping at the same time, the same day, and so forth. I suppose when that occurs, if they do implement it, it's going to be difficult for people to change, as it was when we changed from the office environment to the home environment with COVID. And it causes unrest with people because it's their change of behaviours, and it's uneasy on their normal habitual behaviours. But when implemented correctly, in the right frame of mind, I suppose it can be something that could be, more powerful and benefit for everybody in the long run.
Well, we've just had a comment there from Monique Walsh. We've had a 4-day week for over 10 years, and none of us in the company would give it up for anything. So, I mean, there are businesses out there that are already doing it.
I think it's all down to the right, preparation and management of the situation. I think, it's a given fact. 20 years ago, people were working 6 days a week. Now it's reduced to 5 days a week. There's been a study done by Google, I believe, in Japan about 4 years back, and they've tried to test shorter working days, which proved to be very successful, or working remotely. I think Sweden has already implemented a 6-hour working days. It is true that we are able probably to reduce the working hours, but it has to be managed in a way that we're still efficient and we can actually do the same amount of work, or if not more. I think what showed over the last few years is that actually employees and companies are going much faster than they did back in the day, and that is thanks to use the technology, Internet of Things, whatever it is, big data, and we're going to come up with those solutions, how to make this work more efficient in a shorter period of time. I think people, especially those who set up their businesses, it is a myth that once you have your own business, you're going to become rich and you can go on holidays all the time. It's quite the contrary. You're going to be working your ass off to make sure your business is successful. But what you are looking at the end is to, get that cream from the top at the end and be able to go on nice holidays, get a nice house, buy a nice car. So I think all of us at the back of our heads want to have all those things with the least amount of work. But obviously we need to work smart to get there. So I'm all for it. Do the right study, provide us with data of how it's going to be efficient and how it affects, our daily lives, and we can look at implementing it in the future.
I'd be definitely all for it as well, because it would free up more social time for people to go and see more live gigs. It'd be one less day of the week where they wouldn't have to be up and work the next day. So a 2-day week, maybe a 2-day week, that would be
more work for you, Dave.
Yeah.
Exactly, but Dave, you only work 2 days a week as it is.
Team is no routine. Because the nature of my business, one week I can have 4 gigs, next week I could have 1, the following week I could have none, the following week I could have 6. So my routine is actually no routine. Living here with 3 women, I'm lucky to get a chair when the TV comes on. But usually it's Barney or something like that, or Scooby-Doo, so I'm not in a rush for the chair. But I think even psychologically, I think all over the world, if you get a 4-day week, it's great. Because we do work very hard. As you say, Victor, when you work for yourself, there is no clocking in or clocking out. You're constantly on. Even when you're having a job, you're thinking about work. It's still going on, or you're creating, or you're going, I must do that, or I must do this. But when you work for yourself, everyone is on the conclusion. Oh, it must be great to work for yourself. You've all that free time to do this. You've actually less free time than a guy that has a 9-to-5 job. Because he leaves that job at 5 in the evening. He doesn't think about it again. So he's in there at 9. Most people in a 9-to-5 job spend most of the day wondering how they can get out early or come in late.
I agree with Victor when you feel about working smarter, not harder. But that's effectively what happens to everybody, is they start to work harder and not smarter. But by implementing the smarter approach, and to implement the smarter approach, we just change our habits. Because the behavior, try and implement something, they don't go to the root cause, which is the actual habit itself. When you change the habit, you can introduce a new habit. But what most people do is when they try to change a habit, a negative habit will almost attract another negative habit unless you actually implement a positive habit to replace it. And that's the key to it, to working smarter. So you can work less hours in a day, but get more done, providing you work smarter and change your habits that you were utilizing before you adapted the change.
And what about in your place, Kevin? Would it work there?
Well, I suppose it's an environment that would pose challenges because we have people over multiple departments. We've presenters, we've got people in sales, people in marketing, people in the admin, accounts. So it's a challenge, I suppose, and where the biggest challenge would be with the on-air, the presentation. And I suppose that's primarily because presentation has always been divided into weekdays and weekends. So a weekday presenter is going to be on from Monday to Friday, and then you've got weekend presenters, and that's primarily because people have the weekdays and the weekends. So I suppose, there's a bigger question here. Is the concept of what's a weekday and what's a weekend day going to stay the same, or is it going to change? If people are going to work a 4-day week, does that mean they're going to work Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Monday to Thursday? So is the final result here going to be that we still have what we call Monday to Friday is still the weekdays? And if that's the case, our presenters would have to be on for 5 days a week. And if the weekend is 2 days, I kind of can't really see how that's going to change with radio presentations. And I think that's just one of the many, many things that will have to happen in people's. I think where people start to talk about the 4-day week, there has to be some consideration about how that's going to work and how that's going to affect people and how different people will want to do that. And I would also say, personally, I'd be quite cautious about the idea. I think it sounds great. Hey, you know what? We'll all work 4 days a week, and because we have a day off, we'll just all work a little bit harder, and it's going to be great. But it's about productivity. It's about sales, and if a company doesn't have as much sales, they can't pay as many people, and it's doomed to failure. So if this is going to work, and if it goes ahead, I think there's a societal responsibility on everyone to take it seriously, and for them to understand that there are certain fundamental business dynamics that have to be met and adhered to. And that is that the business has to make enough money to pay everybody, to pay its costs, and to leave a little bit left over for the shareholders. And that's the fundamental thing here. And I mean, I haven't been to Sweden, but it sounds fantastic. All the different things they do. They've great healthcare. People only work for it sounds great, and people seem happy. And if that can be done, great. But I don't think it's as easy as everyone just decided to work a 4-day week. And I would certainly, it's the same with businesses of all types. There are people in each business who will genuinely work 4 days and will work just as hard and will have a great 3 days off, will have a much better quality of life. And there are people who will gravitate towards working 80% of what their current productivity is. And that's where the big clash is going to come. If people are only prepared to do 4 days work, are those people prepared to take a 20% pay cut? If people are prepared to be able to prove that they can do as much work in 4 days as they can in 5, then I'm all for that. So I think it depends on people. It depends on societal understanding. But I think, as I say, it's the kind of thing that once it's done, you can't go back. If people start working a 4-day week and it doesn't work out, I mean, who would want to go back to working a 5-day week when they've worked a 4-day week if their job isn't working out, working 4 days a week? So I can see clashes in some cases, and if the final thing works out, that people work 4 days a week and it all works out, I think it's a great idea. But I don't think it's going to be as easy as some people think it will be.
Yeah, I agree, but I think it's all down to the correct preparation, and that's how we need to do the research. We need to fund the research and make sure that it's done properly. We know that the 6-hour working days work, people are more productive, and obviously, as you say, every industry works differently. So there has to be probably a study made per industry, and there have to be recommendations made of how that would impact every department in every business. But as you say, it's a long way from now anyway. I think I'm happy that there is an initiative to do that. It's not a credible amount of money. It's 150 grand for the state to put into the research initially, and let's see where that takes us. And I think there's going to be a conversation to be had after the initial results.
What I find interesting is it's initially being sold as being an environmental benefit. But what I actually fear you would see happening is you would see companies saying, well, okay, you want to work a 4-day week, so we'll do 4 days on, 4 days off. And you will actually see staff saying, I'm now going to double up on my staff, and we're going to be working 7 days a week in the factory or in the office or whatever, and we're going to look at trying to greatly increase what we're doing, and we'll increase our turnover and that type of thing. But on the flip side, I'd be worried that a cut to a 4-day week. There are plenty of people out there at this moment in time who will actually go to work as a means of escape, whatever their situation may be at home? And are they now going to feel they're being put back in a vulnerable situation because they're only being let work 4 days a week? So there's that side of it as well. So I mean, there's a huge amount of work needed to get this study right, and I certainly think it's one we're going to be watching and we are going to come back to in the future. Right, well, time is nearly running away on us. So I'm quickly going to run through with you all and find out your plans for the future. Dave, I know other than your bingo game, what other plans have you got coming up for the future?
Your bingo game. The bingo game is only a thing I do on a Monday night. That's basically to keep me off the streets and use the studio and kind of get good at all this sort of stuff. The main thing is the live gigs. So a lot more live gigs at the moment. I'm looking for a venue for Christmas to put on a Christmas show. We always have a Christmas show at Christmas. Where else would you have a Christmas show? I probably put.
I don't know. There's actually quite a few Christmas shows popped up in the middle of June this year.
Yeah.
Was there? Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't say that. Anyway, so I'm probably gonna. I'm in the middle of putting together a little tour as well. I'm calling it Loot and Unmasked. Because I've loads of material, a serious amount of material, and just that need to perform is very strong. And in a way, the time off is great. Gives you a chance to refresh your batteries and look at things a bit different. As you were saying there, Barry, about using the time better. I find it during a day, it's what you get done over the whole day means more than what time you did it after. Because a lot of us say, I'll get up at 10 and between 10 and 12 I'll do this, and between 2 and 4 I'll do that. I find whatever you get done in that day, it doesn't matter what time of the day it got done. That's how I run it. That's how I work. So yeah, loads of live gigs, the Christmas show, I don't know, maybe a presenter show with Kevin on 4FM. When Niall gets laryngitis, I'll pop in and we could call it, I don't know, the Head of Hair show. I don't know. Anything like that, loads of that type of stuff. Yeah.
And what about yourself, Kevin, with having the 2 stations now to oversee? What have you got planned for the future?
Well, I suppose things have become very competitive in the radio sector, and it's consolidation has been the name of the game. I suppose what we've seen most recently is that all of the Communicore stations, that's all the stations owned by Dennis O'Brien, were sold to Bauer. So that's a big, big company that's come in from outside Ireland. The likes of F104 and UTV is wireless, which is Rupert Murdoch. So effectively, the majority of the large radio stations in Ireland are owned by people outside the state. So I suppose our stations, which is Nova, Classic Hits, and Nova Classic Sunshine Radio, the 3 radio stations. So there's just the noise on the line. Are all Irish owned. We've very ambitious plans for all 3. I suppose really the pandemic has been very good for radio in that it has helped people to realize just how important a connection radio has with people. For years, we've been told by the advertising agencies, by people in the digital world, that radio's passé, it's old-fashioned, it's going to fade out. It's described as people describe it as traditional media. So it's traditional media that they speak about it, and they speak about digital as being new media. So it's been dissed and it's been dumped on for years. And there was even at the beginning of the pandemic, one of the advertising agencies said that, well, this is pretty much the end for radio now because people won't be in their cars. So who's going to listen to radio if they're not in the car? And then all of a sudden, people are working from home. People wanted the connection. People wanted to listen to the DJ. They wanted to listen to their favorite radio station, and they wanted the connection. And the digital listenership to radio in general is up by 30% since the pandemic. And the moment we don't have any proper radio research because it's between books and there's been lockdowns, people haven't been able to do surveys, but it's still as strong as ever. So that to me is a it's a great indictment of radio. It's been around for years. When TV came along, they used to say, the famous song "Video Killed the Radio Star." The last figures I saw showed that was it something like 62% of people see daytime TV, 82% of people listen to daytime radio. So video did not kill the radio star, and digital has not killed the radio star, and it never will, in my view. So what's the future for us? The future for Radio Nova and Ireland's Classic Hits is for us to grow our market share. We're fighting against big competitors with deep pockets, the likes of Rupert Murdoch, the likes of Barr. But, we've done well so far. And I suppose if we look at, we've invested in talent. We've PJ Gallagher and Jim McCabe on the Nova Breakfast Show. It's gone down a storm. We've Lucy Kennedy and Colm Hayes and Classic Hits. And our plan is to develop both these brands out as major national brands for us to grow our audience and share and reach, and for us to be in a position to basically stuff the radio stations full of great commercials people want to hear, and for us to become bigger and bigger and bigger. I suppose, what we like to think is because we're a bit smaller than the likes of the Today FMs and the News Talks and all the rest, that we can make quicker decisions. And I guess that's our key strength, is that we can make decisions based on the knowledge we have from this market. And we're going to continue doing that. And our hope is to considerably grow the two stations over the next 18 months.
That'd be great. And what about yourself, Barry? What are your plans now for the future?
Yeah, so I continue to grow. Thankfully, next week once a month I do a webinar. But next week I've decided I'm going to turn it into more of a workshop. It's called Simplify Success and Multiply Results, because like what we spoke about earlier when we talk about working smarter and not harder, and of course you can simplify your success, and when you do so, you can multiply your results. I'll talk about, or throughout the workshop, we'll talk about the self-image, which has a significant impact on people's lives and the success that they can have. And then we talk about decision-making. And of course, we'll get into the beliefs and the behaviors and how to create the new beliefs and behaviors to allow people to change that to get the results that they want in life. And as I said, that's once a month we do that, and that's free, of course. And then it's only for 45 minutes. And it's only on a Wednesday at the end of every month, Wednesday evening from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Right, and we will put the link for that up after the show as well for you.
Thank you, Rory.
Okay. And what about yourself, Victor? What's next for you?
Cool, perfect. I'll probably, as I said at the very beginning, keep it short and sweet. We want to be on the shelves across Dublin by end of 2022, and then across Ireland by end of 2023. So watch out for nut cakes. They're going to be beautifully packaged. They're all vegan and nice and healthy and tasty. And obviously, if you want, visit our website at www.vevebakery.com and make an order if you're in Dublin. So that's pretty much it.
Right, well, we're just coming up to the end of show time, so I want to really thank my guests today, Victor, Dave, Barry and Kevin. Really appreciate it. Apologies that we've had a few problems with the sound quality there. But we will be back in 2 weeks' time with another show, and we'll have a new range of guests here to entertain you. And as I said, if anyone would like to get involved in appearing on the show, or if you would like to run an ad or anything like that on the show, please do get in touch with us. You can email us at the litebitelunch@gmail.com, or you can drop us a message on any of our medias, either Facebook, LinkedIn or YouTube, and we'll talk to you all soon. And once again, thanks very much to my guests, and a very good afternoon.